Okay guys, so I want to talk about a couple things. First, I want to talk about these Teravail Coronado tires, 29 by 2.8 in the light and supple casing. So I have those stuffed in there. I can't say stuffed because that's a pretty wide rim. I have them placed on I-35mm Stans Barron rims, CB7s. They're carbon rims, which actually I love them because they are a hooked carbon rim, which is truly unique in the carbon rim world, if you will. So that's what I have on the rear. I bought those tires a long time ago. Well, when I mounted up the matching front one, it was warped. It was so warped it just bothered me, and it wasn't holding air, even though I know the rest of my setup was airtight. So I replaced it and bought the new Teravail called the Oxbow. Now, it's the same tire. I'm not sure if they did anything different. It looks a little bit chunkier, which is kind of cool. You want the chunkier, more knobby tire in the front. But other than that, the tread pattern and everything looks identical. They're both 29 by 2.8. They both spread out really nicely. Really nice looking tires. I have the Cush Core wide in both front and back. I love Cush Core, and once you master putting Cush Core in your wheels, you will never go back, and I highly recommend having Cush Core. There's some other inserts out there, but I like Cush Core the best. And setup tubeless, I use Bontrager tubeless ready sealant, the blue one. It seems to work pretty well. It's kind of has a rubberized, but not quite like latex, but they mix up some other stuff in there. I think it is latex, but I don't know, it works out really well. Even with my flat yesterday, if you guys watch that video, I ended up getting a flat. The little bit of tubeless sealant I had in there, because I didn't top it off, managed to seal that tire. So it's a really nice sealant is what I'm saying. And then of course, when you have an insert and you have a sealant, your insert actually packs down the hole from the inside, because as it gets low and it hits that. So it's kind of has a double benefit, dual benefit, because it'll also pack in your sealant from the inside. So that's kind of cool. I've actually gone home, taken that tire off, and I saw no need to boot that tire from the inside. The sealant had done the job. So I wanted to talk about those tires because Teravail tires are on sale right now. And I also wanted to talk about it because I'm going to be giving away a lot of tires. So I have tires that I've used for a short period. Some of them are warped, I'll admit that. Some of them are not. Some of them are completely tubeless ready sealant. Some of them you'll probably have to use a tube because they've got maybe a sidewall tear, tiny hole that I could never get sealed or something like that. So I don't use them anymore. But if you're a person that doesn't mind using tubes sometimes, they're perfect. And I'm going to put them in a huge purple bag and set them in at Brown Mountain, El Prieto. I will make a short, show you where I set them up. I'm planning for it for next weekend. So stay tuned. This is Labor Day, Monday, Labor Day. So next weekend, the weekend after Labor Day, it's locals only. Sorry for you guys that are at distance. I can't send them to you. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm just giving them away. So there's a lot of Teravail tires. There's a lot of Maxxis tires. There's a lot of different brands. Anyway, so then that brings me to the different topic. As you're looking at my bike, and as I ride this light blue trail, I'll call it light blue because it's super easy. The tubeless, the wheels are not Boost. Now Boost came along about 10 years ago and disrupted the mountain bike industry, and now non-Boost basically is used on gravel, except for gravel, instead of using 100 by 15 in front, which they originally used, went to 100 by 12. Don't ask me why. That 3 millimeters made a difference. They just wanted to disrupt that so you couldn't completely use your non-Boost hub set on your gravel bike. You have to at least buy a new front hub. So And of course they make it seem that center lock is the only way to go for gravel, which I have a lot of 6-bolt gravel wheel sets. I have no problem with them. Matter of fact, center lock is more of a hassle on Chris King hubs, because you have to take away the bearing preload adjustment. You have to take that off to put the center lock on their rear hub. That's another story. Anyway, the Boost came along and said, we will make 142, which we had 142 through axle, and we will make 142 obsolete by making it 148, and we think mountain bikers will benefit from this wider. Now I get it, before with the 135 and the quick release, that was a disaster waiting to happen for mountain bikes. You shouldn't have quick release on mountain bikes. I completely agree with that. But when they made it 142, they took all that hardware that was used inside and outside that quick release, and basically the actual dropouts were actually 142 if you put a through axle and didn't have that extra stuff in there. So the axle dropout was about the same. It was the same as a 135 quick release, but they had it ported out so you could use a through axle. So they didn't widen the drops when they went to 142. They just allowed it to run a through axle. When they went to 148, obviously they increased it by that 6 millimeters, and they made it so you didn't have to or you had to use a different hub depending on the type of hub. Some hubs had conversion kits and you can convert them, but a lot of hubs basically you couldn't do that with, like the Hadley hubs. I can't do that with them, and for good reason, because some of those hubs don't use end caps. They actually are a true one-piece axle without any extensions. So that's what Hadley's 142 hubs are, and some of the other higher end hubs. And they also have wider flanges. If you go to a 148 on a Hadley hub or an Onyx hub, you could see the significant difference in the flange from that hub to the old 142. If you look at the specs on the old, if you can find them, on the old hubs for some of the other companies, the flanges width is the same. So what did that do? Well, if you have a flange width that's the same, I'm going to stop right here and talk for a second. If you have a flange width that's the same, then you have basically not improved the strength of that wheel. So, and I want to point that out to you, that's why I want to stop. So let's look at the front, it's easier. Let's look at the width between here and here. That's the flange width. If you have a flange width on your non-boost hub the same as your boost hub, that triangulation into the rim, or how it's braced structurally, is not going to improve unless it's wider. So what they did is basically disrupted how you attach your hubs to your bike, but they didn't improve the wheel strength. Some of them do, and I'll show you my wheels and you can see that obviously it looks like a stronger wheel, but that's also a single speed specific. But you see how wide the flange is on that Onyx hub, but it is a single speed specific hub, and that gives you a wider base for a better triangulation and a stronger wheel. So my gripe about Boost, especially geared Boost, is it didn't do much. Pivot and some other Noli and Evil and some of the other manufacturers went to the Super Boost, but people complain about that. Now Pivot's even gone back to making regular Boost. I do think the front 110 Boost is significant because that's a full 10 millimeters difference, and wider on your front is actually where you want to be. You should actually have a wide front hub, and that's why Jones bikes are like that. So that's my point, that Boost didn't do much for the wheel strength, didn't do much for the rear triangle strength, and basically just disrupted things more than anything, so you would just buy new parts. And I don't know if you guys think like me, but I felt like getting a high-end hub or any high-end parts, a high-end crankset or a high-end stem or fork or anything like that, I want them sustained. You know, it made forks obsolete too, though non-Boost forks kind of obsolete, and a lot of the high-end frames. So I want them sustained where I can rebuild them and tinker with them and have that frame hanging in my garage or those parts in my garage and be able to reuse them. That's what Boost did. It said fuck you to the mechanics, home mechanics, and people that like to tinker with their bikes. It said you have to buy new shit because everything's changed. So that's my gripe. And again, with the tires, sorry with the tires, but I'll talk to you guys later.